Our top story this hour, Israel has moved ahead with a settling house plan in a sensitive East Jerusalem neighborhood. Experts say that Israel is ramping up construction work before US President-elect Joe Biden takes office. Israel's housing ministry has invited contractor bids for building over 1,200 homes in Givat Hamatos. Now the bidding ends on January 18th, which is 2 days before Biden assumes presidency from Donald Trump, whose administration has been supportive of Israeli settlements on occupied land that Palestinians seek for a state. The project will effectively cut off East Jerusalem from Palestinian city of Bethlehem. Now Palestinians claim that Jerusalem is capital of their future state. Biden has publicly criticized Israeli settlements in the city when he was the US vice president. However, during his recent presidential campaign, Biden said that he will not reverse Trump's recognition of Jerusalem. Meanwhile, Jewish settlers are hoping that Biden will continue with Trump's policy on Israel.
אני רוצה להגיד לאדון ביידן, אני מקווה שהוא יהיה אנושי ויסתכל עלינו בעיניים ויאשר את זה ולא יתקע מקלות בגלגלים כמו שתקע אובמה. כי אנחנו, אין לנו איפה ללכת. זו המדינה שלנו ואנחנו צריכים לחיות. בעזרת השם שיבוא המשיח.
Now for more on this, international human rights attorney Arsen Ostrovsky is joining us from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much for joining us. Now this housing plan is for a sensitive East Jerusalem neighborhood. The project will cut off East Jerusalem from Palestinian city of Bethlehem, as you know. What can you tell us about the implications of this housing plan?
Look, I'm not sure it's, I can see perhaps why the international community might perceive it as being a sensitive issue. But for Israel, this is not sensitive. This is normal. For Israel, Givat Hamatos is not some far-flung suburb, deep over the Green Line. For Israel, this is part of Jerusalem, part of Israel's inextricable and undivided capital as it perceives it. So there's nothing unusual about this at all, about Israel issuing tenders for building of homes in its capital. And we have to also remember this is only a call for the issuing of tenders. This is not any immediate construction. This is a process that takes time. It is something that Prime Minister Netanyahu has called for as part of his election campaign promise almost a year ago as well. So this is not something that has developed overnight, but a process that has taken over time. And as far as Israel considers the situation, this area is part of Jerusalem, part of its capital, and therefore there shouldn't be any reason to impede building of homes there.
All right. Now, many also see this as Israel ramping up the construction work before US President Joe Biden takes office. Now, what do you make of that?
Look, there's no, there are no tractors. There's no building happening right now. As I said, this is only the issuing of a tender and a process that will take time, with the tender only to be complete in January. So the actual building process, if it eventuates and if it does on the terms that have been discussed, something that will take a long time. But we also need to, I think, remember that Joe Biden is someone who in 1995, when Congress passed the Jerusalem Act, recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital, he supported that. And he also said during his election campaign not long ago that he would not support moving the embassy back from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv if he should win the election.
All right. And also another, just for clarification on this, Palestinians do claim Jerusalem as the capital of their future state. How do you see this panning out? What kind of a reaction can we expect now?
Oh, what kind of reaction from the Palestinian? We can expect the same reaction we've expected from them for years now, one of rejection and intransigence. The Palestinians have had 4 years under this current administration of the United States to negotiate and to engage in meaningful discussions, but on each occasion they've chosen to reject that, to reject discussing with Israel and to boycott effectively the U.S. administration. At the end of the day, the Palestinians can make whichever claim they want, but life in Israel goes on, and Israel considers and will consider to view Jerusalem as its undivided capital, and therefore the building of homes in Jerusalem, and as much as India may build capitals in its capital of New Delhi, is not considered a controversial issue here, but it's a normal policy part of the day.
All right, Mr. Ostrovsky, thank you so much for joining us with all those inputs.